Welcome to a documentary on the East Stand at White Hart Lane. Now, of course, White Hart Lane, the old ground of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, is to be demolished to make way for a new 60,000 plus all-seater stadium, state of the art. Now, for a season, Tottenham Hotspur will play away. I think it's going to be Wembley Stadium, but nothing has been confirmed as of yet. Now, the oldest stand still remaining at White Hart Lane is, of course, the East Stand. Now, the East Stand was first constructed in 1911, a concrete terrace replacing the old wooden terrace. And of course, the concrete terrace is the bottom tier of the East Stand. 1934, and the expansion of the East Stand has begun. As you can see, the skeleton is being built behind the existing terracing that was laid in 1911 with extra terracing. This would be known as the shelf. Up above was the balcony that would seat 5,000. A roof was laid on top, and a famous gable was put on top of the roof, known as the Crow's Nest. This would be Archibald Lynch's last ever design, as he was very famous for the many designs he had engineered across the football landscape. The East Stand is taking shape. The famous shelf could house over 11,000 people standing in a total capacity of 24,000. The stand cost over 60,000. I mean, that was a lot of money back in 1934. It was a grand design. As we look at the unique construction from the roof of the West Stand, two gentlemen are on top of the gable cleaning and polishing the famous fighting cockerel that watches over White Hart Lane, the mascot of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Now, this unique stand was opened for a match against Aston Villa in September that year. They lost the game, and in 1938 their biggest ever attendance was set, which has never been broken. Over 75,000 packed into White Hart Lane to see Spurs take on Sunderland, better known then as the Bank of England, in the FA Cup 5th round. 20 years later, in 1958, floodlights were installed at White Hart Lane. Extra lamps placed on the gable at the West Stand, meaning that the famous fighting cockerel was removed and replaced on top of the press box on the East Stand. And to 1966, here is a bird's eye view of White Hart Lane. And there is the famous East Stand in all its glory. This, of course, was Tottenham's most successful period under the guidance of the famous Bill Nicholson, who brought much glory to Tottenham Hotspur, including the double in 1961. Another image of the East Stand from 1971, as Tottenham played their arch rivals Arsenal. 1985, and here is the East Stand in all its beauty and glory, looking magnificent with a white roof. The official nickname for the East Stand was actually the wedding cake, with of course the bride and groom being the famous fighting cockerel that watches over the famous stadium. And I have found some beautiful footage of the East Stand, courtesy of Thames News. In 1988, work started on the east stand to refurbish it. The roof had been removed along with the old press box. Just before that, Paul Gascoigne decided to go up there with his rifle and shoot some pigeons. As he was a bit daft, he fell through the rotten floorboards into the balcony below. An interesting fact there. Work was delayed due to planning permission, and supporters who stood on the shelf formed a group called Left on the Shelf, LOTS. They thought, we're being removed for yuppie supporters, where the executive boxes was going to replace the shelf. The cost of this stand was going to be at 4.8 million, a very, very costly stand. Now, Spurs thought they were going to recoup the money through the executive boxes. But work was delayed and didn't get on the way till May 1989 and continued through the Summer of Love. And here we have the East Stand getting close to completion. But there were more problems for the new East Stand. The new roof couldn't be supported by the old structure, so supporting pillars had to be placed in front of the new East Stand to support the new roof, which cost over £2 million. So this put delay to the completion of the stand, and when the new season started, Tottenham could not fulfil their fixture against Coventry City as work was still being carried out on the new East Stand. They were deducted 2 points and given a bit of a fine. The final cost of the new East Stand refurbishment was over £8 million, twice the cost of the original estimate that was put forward. The stand was officially opened on the 18th of October, with of course its new roof, second tier, and those all-important executive boxes, which Tottenham were hoping to recoup a lot of money from. The first match to be played in front of the new stand was against their arch enemies, Arsenal. They won that match 2-1. The Spurs fans were delighted. The year is 91, the year Tottenham won their last FA Cup. But all was not well behind the scenes. Tottenham had exceeded debts over £20 million. They were close to going bankrupt. But along came a saviour to rescue Spurs in their hour of need. So Sir Alan Sugar, long-life Tottenham fan, came in and rescued Spurs, clearing majority of the debts. And during that time, in 91, he moved Terry Venables into the boardroom as the chief executive of Tottenham Hotspur. But this relationship in 93 broke down. Terry Venables was out on his ear, a court battle started, things were said backwards and forwards in the press and all that. And in 93-94, as Terry Venables was made the New England manager, Tottenham just about stayed up by 3 points. And in the summer of 94, Tottenham would be deducted 20 points and removed from the FA Cup for 1 season. So Tottenham got their penalty deducted and they were now minus 15 points at the start of the season. New seats were installed at the bottom of the East Stand terrace to comply with the Taylor Report of 1994. Ozzy Idealis was the man in charge, and he had signed world-class superstar from Monaco, the German man himself, Jurgen Klinsmann, and he scored a hat-trick against Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough and did that famous dive. But even though he was banging them in, Tottenham were conceding them at an alarming rate. So Ossie Ardiles was gone, and in came Gerry Francis, who had been very successful at Queen's Park Rangers. Alan Sugar got the points back for Tottenham, and he got them back in the FA Cup. And in the end, Tottenham had a very successful season. And to 2001, Daniel Levy came the new chairman, replacing Alan Sugar. There was reports of the East End getting a third tier to raise the capacity. This came to nothing. And then the new Olympic Stadium was being built, which Tottenham wanted to purchase and then demolish and rebuild. But this fell through, and West Ham United got the rights to the stadium. In 2011, the East End became 100 years old, and plans were well on the way for a new stadium on the same site of the original ground. And so in 2016, work started on the new stadium at White Hart Lane. So the East End has stood at White Hart Lane for over 160 years. But by the end of this year, it will be gone, consigned to the history books. And that ends our story. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Please like, please share, and goodbye.